Welcome to Life Talks with Immaculate and Sarah. It's so good to be back with you guys. And for today, we wanted to talk about who we actually are. You know, when you're in a job interview and people are like, tell me about yourself, who are you? So for most of you, you don't actually obviously know us, and we're these two random women on YouTube talking about different topics, sometimes of your interest, sometimes things that maybe you're not so bothered about. So we thought it would be better if you could learn to relate to my mom and to myself by getting to know us a little bit so that maybe when you talk about different things, you can understand where we're coming from. It's been roughly how long?
About 3 months.
About 3 months that we've been doing this or learning how to do this, and I think it's a perfect time to, sit down and ask who we are and for us to introduce ourselves a little bit better.
So you could relate to us maybe better, because it is difficult to listen to people and you really don't know who they are. So as Sarah's introduced me, I'm her mom. I grew up in the village, really an ordinary village girl. But due to life, I have found myself in Ireland now.
Yeah, and when we talk about village girl, so we're originally from Uganda. That's East Africa, the Pearl of Africa. Go Uganda. And now we live in Ireland.
So we are now Irish.
Yeah, so I guess just like when we first started this show, we used to say maybe it will be like Ugandan Irish or like Irish Ugandan, because that's really where our life experiences and opinions come from, really.
Yeah, like Sarah, like the village, you didn't grow up in the village much.
No?
And basically my whole entire background or life started from the village and love. Yeah. And I love my village.
It's true.
My heart is always in my village. Yeah. Everything up to now, I'm here nearly 22 years. But every time I'm thinking about the village, I still think it is home. And yet when I go there, doesn't really feel like home anymore, because my age mates have moved.
Yeah.
How do you, like for you grew up in a different setting, you grew up in the city. But I used to take you to the village. How do you think about my village? Do you have some attachment?
I think from a tribe point of view, I have a huge attachment. Because being Ugandan, for those that relate, is really tribalistic, even if we want to deny it sometimes. So I think, how do I think about the village? It is who I am. I feel like despite being in Ireland, if I was somewhere in Kampala, that if I went back, they're the people who have to take me in. Like they have no choice. So for me, it is home because it's a place that I know I belong no matter what anyone says. But like despite the fact that I didn't grow up there, that deep-rooted attachments. Like I know who I am because no matter what, I know where I belong if anyone else denies me. But it's also shaped some of the decisions I've actually made with education as well.
Yeah, that's good, because that's your roots. It is important to have that sense of belonging and your roots, where you come from. And that's why sometimes I worry that if people who have lived here now, like let's say something happened to me, I sometimes worry that if people will disappear here and forget where you came from. But I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep taking your kids there in future if you get kids. Because that's where you come from.
Yeah, I don't think I would forget. I think as a female, like something that I think about, like I think for us, the thing that really made the village, like make us feel like this is home, was like our grandma. So I think when she passed away, I used to have this fear of like, oh, that is the main link. And if she passed away as a female that may marry away from home, like from home, how will I be accepted? Because it's not like a boy, like, So I think those are things that maybe I used to worry about. I was actually talking to a friend today, and his dad, he was telling us that his dad during the lockdown did this like language, like Luganda is a local language, widely spoken in Uganda, and he did these Zoom classes for all these, like I think Ugandan kids or his grandkids, and at the end of this like first class, he had like they passed and he had certificates. And I was saying to him, I was like, I have to bring my kids when I do have kids there so that my kids have the language. And maybe that's the things I would worry about. That my kids may never speak my mother tongue. But forgetting, no. Like, I know they won't because the plans I have in place for my kids not to forget.
I think that's why we have the family tree account. And I try to write small stories attached to everybody I remember. This is basically for posterity. like for future generations. Because I know, like, it is inevitable if you stay here long, maybe 5 generations after me.
Yeah, it makes
It
sense.
is inevitable that the language will kind of go off. But it's important that if you go there, if you continue going there, and it's important that we speak our language because that's our identity.
So you need to speak it. I love my home. Actually, so I'm married and I've only been married for 2 years. And when my husband said that, he's like, you guys don't, like, you only ever speak English. And he was like, is that just because you're in Ireland? And I was like, no, we always did, even when we were at home.
That's the problem because you
so
grew up in
we can't blame
city.
Europe for these things. Because sometimes even in our, like, original home countries, we do speak English in our own.
Because in Uganda, as you know, English is a national language. But we used to speak Ateso. For, like, my tribe is Iteso.
Which is
northeast of Uganda.
Yeah.
Katakwi district.
Yeah,
Yes. We are the people, the UK of Uganda. We call ourselves the UK, United Kingdom of Uganda.
Not necessarily anywhere else.
Yeah, Uganda. So we speak Ateso. Ateso would probably be the second largest spoken language in Uganda. So our language is kind of massive. But due to education and moving out, like away and wars, like people found themselves in the city much, and the kids grew up there, and the language is kind of starting to go, like, because the older people speak the language. But I try, like, even my mom tried to speak with you.
I think she tried more because she didn't speak any other language, or she chose not to. I don't know if you tried as much, but I think by default of having relatives always around, it was spoken.
Yeah, it was spoken.
But we
do speak Ateso though.
To other people, when you call people back home, you do speak to them. But to each other, the truth is we just don't.
No, sometimes I speak. The problem is
you greet. You're like, Sarah, Bible, which is how are you? Then she's like, how was work? And I'm like, oh, that's not speaking much.
Yeah, because like when people came like first, I used to speak in Ateso. But you reply to me in English.
Because when we're
then
home,
I assume that maybe you are not understanding the language.
No, because when we're at home in Uganda, when we say home in Uganda, we did speak English all the time, even with you. So now that we moved to Europe, you want to hold on to this culture that you didn't start.
I did start, because that's why I always used to take you home.
We'll agree to disagree.
No, I always made sure you went home.
Yeah, but that's
for
different
that reason, so that you kind of
constantly, like the families that I don't necessarily say it's the best thing to do, but when they're home, like there's a family I know, and like he's I think like Irish, but like speaks French, and like she's German, and when they like she'll speak to the kids in German, and he'll speak to the kids in French, and then their nanny will speak in English, and school is in English. So that is an extra effort, if you know what I mean.
But I did try, but you people used to answer me back in English.
I'm the child. I don't know what
you're trying
to
I am trying. I'm speaking the truth.
You're like, I refuse to be put down in the record having not talked to my kids.
I always spoke in Ateso, and sometimes I sing in my, like at home. I sing in my language.
Okay.
Yeah. So I assume that you'll be interested to want to sing with me.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the reason, like, I try to stay connected to my language and my tribe and where I come from. Why do you think we always go to Uganda? Even after my parents all passed away. Because I want
this has become her convincing me. Can you move on?
Yeah, because you're trying to say that I don't speak my language. I do speak my language.
So what plans do I have for my children to at least learn like something? Well, because I'm married to an Irishman, it is my goal that my kids will have obviously his last name as their father because it's his culture. And I'm married to him and I want to honor that. But my plans are that, let's say if my kid's name is like John, I will name them a middle name from my tribe and then their father's name.
And that's what I've been doing with even your sister's kids.
So that's what I plan to do.
So that they stay connected to their own, like my side of the family.
Because especially if, let's say, I pass away, you pass away, because it's like generations morbid, but there we go. That hopefully it's something that at least they can tie themselves back to that, or people will ask.
Because people will ask.
And also,
that name sounds strange. Where are you from?
Yeah, so
and then they will explain.
Yeah. So another thing I think I hope to do, not hope, I will do it, because even if we've lived in Ireland, for me, well, my mom said she's been here 22 years.
Yeah.
I've been here 26, 26, no, 16
Yes.
years. 16 years. Ooh, 26 is such a long time. 16
I was
years.
wondering, did you come here before me?
16 years, and I do my very best, and I used to at least go back home for a month, 2 months, 3 months through the summer, you know, apart from COVID now. But that's something I want to do with my kids and my husband, that they get to go back home. I know sometimes I'm like, hey, if our kids do that, they're going to the village. I don't know if it's early to, I don't want them to associate it as a punishment.
No.
So I want to remove that, like,
The kids love to have a sense of belonging, which is
Yeah.
important.
For sure.
Because like basically like psychologically as well, it's very good to have a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
You have your roots. Yeah, they are like things that attach you to who you are. Because if we lose that, then we lose our identity.
True. So apart from
Yeah.
where you're from, like, who are you beyond that?
Apart from that, I'm a woman who has what they call hustling. Streetwise. I've learned from the University of Life. And I've ended up where I am. Not necessarily because of my education. I studied and I was an accountant back home before I moved here. So I practiced accounts for about 12 years before I moved.
Yeah.
And then when I came here, I worked different things. And then I started to change my career and I joined social care work. And I started by volunteering because I saw this advert on one of the links, community links, and some lady was looking for help. But I kept looking at that. For 3 months, nobody replied.
Oh, wow.
That's how I ended up in social care. So when I replied, I went and I explained to the manager who was managing her services, I am not really professionally a care worker. But if you instructed me, naturally I care about people because of our kind of setting. Like we have extended family and I was always attached to other people, looking after them and all that. Just naturally. Then she said, okay, we can try. And after like 8 months, I used to go because I used to work Monday to Friday and I would be off the weekend. So every Saturday I would go to her the whole day. Like trying to help her, like set up, because that time they were starting independent living. So I was starting to kind of support her to prepare her mentally how to move and live by herself.
That's interesting.
And I just kind of, it came to me from like the way I lived before. Like I moved countries. So I know what it is
To adjust to
adjust to moving and all that. So I used that skill to
Life
help
skills
her.
really can
Yeah.
help us in any situation.
And then the manager liked it. And she said, you know you could be paid for this. I said, no, I didn't do that. Like, no, I'm an accountant and this and this. And she said, no, you are really naturally good with this. You could get training for this and get paid. Like,
Imagine
get
now
a
see
job.
where you are. Like,
Yeah.
you've been in it for so
And that's
many
how I
years.
ended up in social care. So, because I didn't know anything, I had to do a course.
Yeah.
So I ended up, and I actually like it because
Yeah.
it is very humbling.
And I think beyond humbling, that's also something I think in general people have to be aware of. I think something when you move, immigrate or whatever from another country, that you don't realize that your career path may change.
Yeah.
Your dreams may change, and sometimes it's just to in line with how another country really like functions or views. Maybe people have immigrated or just life in general. I think for me, obviously, I was in Uganda. Like you raised me in Uganda, then you raised me through here. So I went through primary school and part of secondary school there. Then secondary school to like my master's has been in Ireland.
Yeah.
And I think
I
for
think
me,
you are there only 1
a
year
few-
of secondary
so
school.
yeah, year or two. So I think it's a little bit different for me, like how I view work. But it's interesting because we talked about like, oh, what about the village? What does it mean to you? And yet at the same time, like when I went for my grandmother's funeral, I remember just looking at these people and how happy they were. And I remember just thinking, I came from a toilet, this is weird, but I came from a toilet that flashed, I could like manually flash to a toilet that flashed itself when I was in Amsterdam airport to then I was picked up and I was in the village where I had to dig, like I had to go behind a bush or a tree, right? I remember just thinking,
We had a pit latrine.
no, wait, because there's a funeral and it was so busy
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
so I
yeah,
did go
yeah,
behind
yeah.
the tree. And I remember thinking just how wealth is how do you even call it, disproportionate? Like,
Proportional.
yeah, the way it's spread out, but also how just unfair the world is and how unknowing others are of what is out there. But I just remember thinking what a disadvantage that would be to know what's out there and to see what you're forced to live under. And that actually it inspired me to go back and learn development, like international development, because I wanted to understand why were the rich and why they were poor. And I wanted to understand my history from a different viewpoint. I knew my history as a Ugandan from the teachers who taught me, and I knew Irish history, but I didn't understand why was the world functioning like this. And it probably broke my heart the more I went through the college degree and learning, but it was probably the best thing I ever taught. I didn't get work in that specific field yet, but I will never be the same girl, because how I view life, how I make decisions, the charities I may give to, the different things I volunteer to, and how I view my village and what development it requires is different. And I understand why charities function and how they function, and is it actually beneficial for my people? And as a woman, and I think that it has made up my passions, for life, because of that decision, that one funeral and that one decision to self-educate myself. And I think I'm always competing with myself. I always feel like I don't know enough. I'm always saying, Sarah, you always think you don't know anything, because I'm always knowledge envy is really a big thing for me. But I think I just want to be more and learn more, because I feel like there's so many people who have little and I want to give more.
Yeah. But sometimes that's good, because you have both worlds.
Yeah.
You know what works and what doesn't. And you know maybe potential as well.
Yeah.
Because we can give chance to other kids back home. Because you know what you are able to give and what you can't.
Yeah.
And what really may work there.
The difference it will make.
Yeah.
And actually making, because I think sometimes we create more disability than enabling people, and I think learning
we take away people's independence when we keep giving and giving.
Yeah.
We should really be training people to be self-reliant.
So I think those are definitely our passions, I would say. But what else? I guess if you ask anyone about who is Sarah, I think people would say two things. My family is my weakness and my strength. That is where you can either trust me or you can really throw me out. My everything is a hard badge for me. I don't know how to describe it. The other thing is I've always been religious. The
church.
Yeah, I'm a member. We both are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and some maybe religious aspects of our lives will filter into our videos because it is who we are, and religion is important to me.
And to me as well.
And to you as well, but I don't know.
It kind of we are more like spiritual people, not really religious.
What's the difference?
Because spirituality is a kind of a relationship, a personal relationship.
With God?
With God.
What's that one? Which one is that one?
Spirituality.
Spirituality, okay.
And then religion is following certain values of a certain group.
Couldn't you be both? Because if you're a member of a certain church, you're following
not really
rules.
Spiritual, because for me, the way I see, my faith is personal.
Yes.
Even without a church, I would still exist in my faith.
Yeah.
So that's spirituality to me. I don't attach myself to a certain group to be able to function as a believer.
Okay, I agree. Yeah.
I go to church for strength, for people who believe like me. But even if that's shattered, I would say so. That's spirituality to me.
No, I agree with you. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why, your viewpoint, I've been raised to think like that. That for me, a lot of Christians, by the way, Christians, in case anyone didn't know what that denomination is, and I'm not worried about not being a perfect Christian, and I'm not worried about having some like maybe commandments or some covenants that I struggle with, because I believe that's my path, and let me struggle with it until I figure it out. But I'm not those people who are like
Fanatic.
not even fanatic, where it's like to be seen. For example, like getting married. I got married to somebody who is not religious at all. And I had just come back from a religious mission. So to some people, I know it rubbed off a few Christians the wrong way, but it didn't matter because that's my path and my decision and my life, and I live the consequences of that life because I know the relationship I have with God or my Heavenly Father. So I guess that's something people would. It's a struggle sometimes. It's hard.
It is hard because you kind
in
of
a religious group.
debate with yourself, like what is beneficial to me and what isn't.
It's definitely been one of the struggles I've had for sure.
So that would be really like anybody who wants to know us. Faith is very important with us. It is the center of our lives.
Yeah, it's very. I feel like church is therapy, like free therapy, I guess.
And I just always think that I can see the hand of God in my life, because if you see the village, you have seen the village yourself, you have described it like how it is. For somebody to come out of that village and manage to make something out of themselves. Yeah, it is not easy, but it wasn't like me alone. But God used other people.
Recognize there's a power beyond yours and favor and good favor from God and other people.
And other people, because God used other people to kind of shape my life.
Yeah.
So I believe that without God, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today. So I keep thanking God for that.
Yeah.
So that's why it is very important that we try in whatever way, like these videos. We are not doing it because we want to get paid or we want to get something.
Well, we're not getting paid.
Yeah. So we are doing this as a passion, like something just
to bond. That was such a good great thing as well. But I think we wanted, I don't know, it's not that unique, but I just felt like there were very few African voices. Especially like when you think about us, I think about like women are strong, and I'm always we're both always trying to empower people in general, but women, because that's what maybe the background has stood strong for us. But even with these videos, we wanted people to hear accents like this.
Ugandan accent.
Like people who also have been involved.
Some people say we have, but my accent has stayed.
Yeah.
I don't think it has changed much.
I know.
Though some people say it has become a little bit European.
I think I have a good Ugandan accent. Like,
mine too.
We had this conversation on a family page where a friend of ours from Liverpool was like, he was in the hospital and recognized the Ugandan accent and told this person that I have friends who are really like family now. And my sister was like, was it Mom's accent or Sarah's? And I was like, for sure me, because I feel like...
Now your accent is really not Ugandan. I think like the person who would be...
You just insulted me.
No,
I was laughing, I didn't click.
No. But Sarah, really like it is... Because you came here young.
Yeah, so my accent doesn't change much.
No, you are kind of different a little bit. Like, because Ugandans speak very slowly.
I speak quite softly. And
No, you are very fast.
I think I talk a lot.
No, but you are actually fast as well.
Oh, guys, I'll learn to
Because
slow down.
Uganda, like by tonations, our language is very soft and slow.
Maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's the Irish thing then.
I think. Because like, I would be the more, like, I didn't change my accent much.
And I think that's something, anyway, this introduction is going too long, but something I think is interesting a little bit, but not interesting, that I find when I go to Uganda now, it breaks my heart because I feel like this, like last summer, there used to be like Pasama, like, I don't know, people just come for the summer, but it's like almost they don't fully want to acknowledge me as a Ugandan. They're like, oh, that European. And then when you're in Ireland, they're obviously like, oh, that you, like, I don't know, that black person maybe from Africa. So sometimes when you're someone who lives in a country outside of your origin, you're stuck between this two, who, you know, not necessarily who am I, because I know who I am. And no matter anyone's, like, opinion, I know.
That's why it is important to know your roots.
Yeah.
And have that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And the center, like where you start from.
But one thing I would say about both of us, though, is who we are. Not to take it from you, because you're really hardworking, but I think work is important to us. Like we work hard, and so far nothing has been handed to either of us. You obviously lived a a longer life and more hectic and harder life. But that's something I would describe about both of us, but I more got it from you, seeing you. The work hard and having something on my own to achieved is key and important.
Because like without work, like maybe they're digging in the village is not a job.
For me, the slashing, those punishments in boarding school, slashed. Slashing like cutting grass.
To wake up in the morning, like my family, there was not many boys. So to go to the crowd to bring out the oxen.
You used to have to do that?
Yeah, we had to do that very early in the morning, like about 5 a.m. And my father was very strict.
You're a bad morning person.
Yeah? That's the problem. I'm compensating.
I'm better in the morning than in the evening.
I'm not a good morning person because but when I get up and shower, I'm okay. But the problem for me is alarm clocks. I hate alarm clocks.
So we need to just get you more cows around the place.
I hate that. That will remind me getting up. And
Poverty fresh, eh?
No. It wasn't really poverty because we had a lot of cows.
You didn't come from a poor home, that's for
really,
sure.
no.
The description. But to conclude mine, describe me in one word, and I'll describe you in one word, and we shall end this fabulous video and give you back your time.
One word is enough.
Thanks. Yes, one word. You don't have all day. People have things to do.
You're lovely.
That's it.
You're beautiful.
One word that summarizes me, and you gave me lovely.
What did you want? Just tell me what to say. Because that's from me. Patience is
I'm not patient. Despite the fact it's my middle name, patience is one attribute I lack.
No.
But okay, if I had to describe you, it's going to be too many words.
You're a very friendly person.
Yeah, I guess I'll take friendly. For me, you're strong. If there's one thing I can describe it, but I also know that strength comes to those that need it the most. That's
those
how
who
I
have
feel.
gone through a lot.
Yeah, but for me, it's
experience
like
brings strength.
That would be my word for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And you're an amazing mom. I could not pick anyone else in the world to be my mom.
In
I
the
swear.
next world, I might change.
If anyone said like Oprah wants to adopt me tomorrow and like I will have all the money in the world and wealth, I would never.
What would you do? You wouldn't want to be
I'll
rich.
think fast and then but no joking, I really No, you have been an amazing mom. Like to me and so
I'm glad to hear that.
What else were you doing? I let you sit next to me all the time.
Like
every word for me in a day, I'm pretty sure I say my mom at least like.
I know,
something.
and during the mission, everybody was saying, "Who was this woman?" Like you
for me,
talk
my
about
mom is
your
my mom, my mom. Like,
mom this, mom that, and remember how I used to send you messages every day in the mission.
Because you've been a good mom. You've been a kind of mom I want. You're my mother, but you are my friend, and like you're a good balance. Like
that's
so anyway,
important.
Thank you for spending time with us. I love you too,
I
Mom.
love you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope it gives you some insight into who we are.
So we are ordinary people.
Too ordinary, maybe.
Living an extraordinary life.
Ah, look at you. Yeah, those words. Well, check out our YouTube, and definitely if you want to follow, do subscribe so that when these videos come up, you get to know a bit more about us and learn more from us, and also teach us things you want to share. Subscribe. Like if you like this video, or if you have more questions from us or want to get to know us, comment. Subscription is free, just so that you know when a video comes out. Thank you so much for your time.